Let's make a chocolate raspberry layered dessert. Welcome to the Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show, where we make plant-based cooking easy. Today we are going to make this delicious chocolate raspberry layered dessert that you are just going to fall in love with. And all of our pantry staples today are from our partner Essential Organics, who carry over 600 organic products. Go check them out. Use the code PLANTBASEDEASY at checkout to get 10% off your first order. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Now we're gonna start with our dry ingredients. So like always, I always use rolled oats. These are organic rolled oats to make the base of the flour, for the flour. Instead of using a white refined whole wheat flour or white flour, we're using oats. All right, so you just wanna grind them up until they make a flour. There we go. And you don't have to grind it till it's super, super fine. It's actually better if it's just a little bit rough, because then it helps it to bake a little bit better. If it's too fine, then it ends up turning a little bit gummy when you bake it. So then we have half a cup of almond flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half teaspoon of baking soda, and a half a cup of cocoa powder. Then you want to just mix this up before we add our wet ingredients. Okay, so for our wet ingredients, we've got half a cup of, these are decadent dates. If you are using medjool dates, that's fine too. 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then I have 1.5 cups of soy milk here, but I'm not gonna pour all of it in there. I'm gonna pour about half of it in there. It just makes it easier to blend, and the dates blend up finer if you don't use as much liquid. If you use too much liquid, then you're usually gonna still have date chunks remaining in the bottom. So just half. Just really enough to get it to mix. And then you're just gonna blend that until those dates are completely pulverized. All right, there we go. So then you're just gonna pour that along with the rest of our soy milk. And this is an unsweetened soy milk, but you can use whatever plant-based milk you like. I would just prefer that it's unsweetened, because the sweetness, of course, is gonna come from those whole dates. All right, stir it up really well. Okay, so next, this recipe is so great. It's such an easy recipe and it's so versatile. You can make it in several different ways. You can either be super, super fancy, and you can use a small cheesecake tin, you know, with the ones with the pop-off ring, or you can use a brownie pan that's gonna give you a little bit thicker cake on the bottom, or you can use a pan like this. It's just a little bit smaller than a standard casserole dish, which is 9 by 13. So if you use the cheesecake tin, you're gonna make the cake in there, and then you're gonna cut it in half and do a 2-layered dessert with it. Then you can frost it with the toppings. But I like this way. It's much easier, much less fussy. It's good if you're in a pinch and you need a quick, delicious dessert. This one is just gonna be a layered dessert. So all of this is just going to go in the bottom of your cake pan or casserole dish or brownie pan, whatever you're going to use. Throw this over here. Oops. And you're just going to smooth it around, make sure it's just evenly spread in the bottom of your pan. Okay, then this is going to go in your oven for 20 minutes. While we're waiting for that, I'd like to share some background on our show. The Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show is crowd-funded, which means these free weekly recipe videos, along with our entire catalog of free printable recipes on our website, plantbasedcookingshow.com, and our Plant-Based Cooking Made Easy cookbook series, are all made possible in part by the generous patronage of our supporting membership community. So if you love our recipes, I invite you to join us on our mission to make plant-based cooking easy, and follow the link in the description to become a supporting member today. There's no denying the plant-based diet is a nutrient powerhouse, but did you know there are a handful of hard-to-get nutrients even well-crafted diets are often lacking? The latest research suggests that complementing your diet with a few specific vitamins, minerals, and omega-3s will help boost your energy and keep you thriving for the long term. That's why my daily health routine includes Complement Essential. Complement Essential contains the 8 critical nutrients lacking from most plant-based diets in dosages optimized specifically for us. As a special discount for our viewers, just use code PLANTBASEDEASY at checkout to save 15% off of your order. Okay, next we're going to move on to the cream layer. So you're going to need 3/4 cup of cashews, or you can use almonds, 6 deglette dates or 3 medjool dates, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1/2 cup of water. And this, you're just gonna blend this up until it's really creamy and those cashews are completely pulverized. If you feel it with your fingers, you don't want to feel any of the grittiness from the cashews. So if there's still grittiness, blend a little bit more. All right, there we go. Creamy, creamy. All right, so next we're on to the raspberry layer. All right, for the raspberry layer, you're gonna need 2 cups of frozen raspberries that I've divided in half. One of them is gonna go into your blender cup because we're gonna blend it up with the dates. And that is gonna be the sweetener because, as you know, raspberries are really, really tart. So the other one is going to go into your saucepan. Okay, and then 1/2 cup of dates into the blender. 1½ tablespoons of arrowroot powder. That is going to make it a little bit thicker, so it's more like of a gel consistency, and then 1/2 cup of water. And we're just going to blend this up until it's, you know, pretty smooth. You don't have to blend it up super fine. We just want those dates to get pulverized pretty much. And then we're gonna pour it into our pan with the whole raspberries. There we go. Just a few seconds, probably like 15 seconds or so. And pour it in your pan. And we're going to start heating this on medium heat, and you're just going to heat it and, you know, keep stirring until it's slightly thickened. Okay, I'll show you when it's a little bit thicker, what the consistency we're looking for. Okay, if you want to come in and take a look, this is about the consistency you want. It's not going to be super, super thick, but, you know, the thickener is necessary, and as it cools, it's going to get a little bit thicker. So while your cake is cooling, you want this to be completely cooled before you put these toppings on. So just pop these into the refrigerator because it's always nicer if they're just a little bit more firm before you put them on your cake. All right, let's do that. Okay, so now that your cake is completely cooled, we're gonna frost it. So you're just gonna pour that cream layer on top. And really, you can do this in any order that you want. I just find that this is a little less complicated because there's more of the raspberry filling. It's a little easier just to pour on top. So you smooth your cream layer over the cake. Okay, there we go. And then you take your raspberry filling and you just kind of pour it on around. You don't want to like pour it in one spot and then try to drag it around because then you're going to be mixing it with your cream. So you kind of just like let it blop, 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 you know, onto your cake until you get a majority of the surface kind of covered so that you're removing it as little as possible. Okay, and then you just spread it around very, very gently, just so that you're not really moving that cream layer a whole lot. And even if you do, there's still another topping, so it could hide any of those little mistakes. Okay, there we go. And I didn't go all the way to the edge because I kind of like to see some of the layers. I think it just looks a little bit nicer. And then as an extra, this is completely up to you, but I just like the extra little touch. So you take about a tablespoon or so of cocoa powder, and you know, so it kind of looks like a tiramisu. You're just going to dust it on the top of the complete top of that. All right, if you want to come in and take a closer look, it's really pretty. We'll just clean off the edges here. And then all that's left is a taste. So I'm going to grab a fork and a plate, and I'll meet you at the table for a taste. Okay, time for a taste. Let's see if we can get this out of here. All right. And this might be one of those desserts that you just get a spoon and spoon it out. But, oh yeah, look at all that juiciness. Okay, and I already know that this is good because Jeff and I have eaten a few of these in our attempt to make it perfect, but that hits all of the spots. Sweet, a little bit tart from those cherries, and the chocolate. You're gonna love it. Come on back next week for another great recipe.